Alright guys, today we're going to have a look at the Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron AAT battle tank. Pretty anticipated one for me. I love the AAT. I've always loved the way it looked in Phantom Menace. I like the tan sort of beige color scheme. It's always been more my speed. I don't like the Separatist blue. It's never been my thing. So I'm glad that the one they did was the Phantom Menace version. You can sort of imagine Jar Jar swinging off the cannon. So we'll get right into the features. I'll give you overall sort of look over on the sculpt. Great sculpt. I like it quite a bit. We'll compare to the Action Fleet version in a little bit. I've had the Action Fleet version for a little bit, and I'm not crazy about it. It's objectively a great toy and probably better than this one, but aesthetically, I like the lines of this one more. It's more squat, less thin. It's more widened out, which I always saw as more imposing. Give you a look at the cannons there. There's the wash. Same sort of brown wash that they've done on a lot of these toys. But there's your overall look. First off, we'll start with the cannons. The cannons, you can see, actually have a lot of individual little tubular sort of extensions. Obviously, it's the cannon we're talking about, but you can't expect that on a lot of these toys. You can see they're linked so they don't snap off. If they weren't, a kid would be playing with it and ram it into the ground. The thing would snap right off and he'd have a big problem. They were kind enough to leave the top one as its own single thing. Same thing on the other side. You can see they actually stop. The rotation is sort of limited, which I kind of like in a way. I never found that there was a reason to 360 it. And I think it just means that while you're, roughing around with it and playing with it, it doesn't get too crazy. These don't get flipped backwards. Because I was a kid once, and I played with a lot of Star Wars toys, and the cannons used to get messed up a lot. On to the main attraction. That's the giant cannon. I don't know if it has a special dumb Star Wars name like all these things do, like the G29 Obliterator, which is probably actually what it's called. It's not too far off, I bet. But obviously it goes up and down. Confusingly, it doesn't actually lower. It sort of stops, which I'm a very specific kind of toy enthusiast, so this kind of stuff really appeals to me. I don't like it when there's too much articulation on toys, and I feel like this strikes a good balance. You can go up like it does in the movie, but it doesn't go crazy whenever, and it actually sits straight, which is another thing I like a lot. I like that it doesn't like to droop onto the rest of the turret. It actually locks at 90 degrees, which again doesn't bug me because I don't like to hyper-articulate my stuff. But onto the back part here, you can see there's a hatch, two antennae that are linked with a sort of linkage piece to keep them from breaking, so that makes them a lot stronger. The kind of difficult. There we go. The hatch actually pops open like that, and you can see inside there's quite a bit of detail. If I can get it to focus. There's a little separator for the legs. I'll show you the figure in a second. The figure actually can go in there, which is pretty awesome. Just pops shut like that. I don't believe it's too accurate to the movies. These should splay open separately. But I'm glad it's there at all, and it doesn't bug me too much. I think it looks pretty cool like that. As you can see, I'm already a pretty big fan of this toy. I like it a lot. Up front, there is a little hatch door that you just sort of pry open like that, and you can see a pretty well-detailed interior. I have no idea if this is actually accurate to an AAT or not, but it looks cool, and they actually put a control console inside of the hatch, which they did not have to do. Look at all that detail. Completely superfluous, not necessary, but definitely appreciated. There's your little, I believe these are cannons. I know in the Galaxy Heroes game, These things have killed a lot of my guys. Down to the missile launchers. You can see they're unfortunately not actually holes for missiles to come out of, which is sort of odd. You think they just have to mold in sort of like a spherical sort of area there, but instead we get just kind of weird divots, which do the job detail-wise. It probably, if I hadn't pointed it out, there's a lot of people who wouldn't have noticed. But at least we get the awesome sort of char marks, which are accurate to the film. Around the back, you can see there's a nice bit of detail. Hatch door doesn't actually open. I believe it's supposed to. Probably opens in some cartoon show or something. But you see the little stand here. Doesn't have any wheels on it or anything like that. And the stand is probably my favorite of any of the AAT toys that I've come across, because it just snaps right out. If you don't want it, you don't need to have it. Thing doesn't actually sit up without it. It's impossible. So it's there for a reason, and I'm glad it's there, and I would take it over not having one. But it being removable is the bee's knees. I love that kind of stuff. Onto the bottom, you can see there's some subtle clear wheels that don't stick out too much, so that you can have an illusion of the thing rolling along. It doesn't roll by itself, really. So you will have to actually do the work yourself. That's another thing I just noticed. The turret actually ratchets into certain positions. See how it doesn't want to move? And you can sort of break it out of that position, and it actually locks forward very tightly, which is great, because it means the thing doesn't go all over the place when you're trying to play with it, which is something I appreciate. I like frictioned joints that don't go crazy when you try to, play with the toy. But, obviously it still moves. That's really it for features. I'll give you a look at the bottom. I believe these are some hover jets, but that's a stab in the dark. That's gonna cover most of the toy itself. We'll go on to the figure. Gives you one oddly Geonosis battle droid, where they have that red sand color, which this doesn't appear in Attack of the Clones, I don't believe. And if it does, you can make fun of me in the comments. But, obviously the more famous movie that this color scheme appears in is Phantom Menace, so you think they'd give you one of the beige, sort of tan color droids. But this'll do. The backpack isn't removable, and if it is, it doesn't want to come off, and I'm not going to force it. Obviously, he's got the same articulation as most Micro Galaxy figures. But the actual sculpt of the droid is pretty nice. It just needs some paint. It's so bare. I mean, even a black wash, no paint, but a wash would bring out a lot of that detail and make it look better. Oh well. Obviously, the droid can sit in the pilot seat right there. It's a little tough to get him to stay. That's another story. But you could just kind of sit him in there and shut it, and he doesn't really rattle around too much. And then the top hatch, if you wanted to, pretend he was some sort of commander. At this point, we have to hope that they release another sort of commander droid. I believe they have the yellow paint scheme. And there's leg separators in there to stop him from falling all the way in. So you can prop him up like that and have your little tank rolling along. Very cute, nice feature. Looks good too. I like it a lot. Overall, I would say this is definitely my favorite AAT toy, but I may have lost my sense of objectivity. Aesthetics are very important to me, and playability, not getting too out of control where you have joints that loosen up over time and all that kind of stuff. I like, friction in the joints, and I like ratchets instead of just full-on 360 rotations. So this appeals to a lot of my little quirks when it comes to toy design. On to the Action Fleet version, I'll give you a little comparison. I acquired this probably a little over a year ago. It's a great toy, and definitely in the paint department just completely annihilates this one. But toy-wise, I definitely prefer this one. This one looks very nice, though. You can see it's a lot more tall than it is wide, like this one. It sits a little lower to the ground, and the gun is more prominent. Action Fleet commits a lot of the sins of toy design that I don't love too much. The gun can move down, which is nice, but there's not a lot of friction in the joint here, so it can be wiggled loose, and that means your gun isn't going to stay straight. And the friggin' gun is made out of rubberized plastic, so it just warps so badly. You would be hard-pressed to find one of these that actually has a straight gun. But let me give you a better comparison. It is slightly bigger, the Action Fleet one, and the paint is just so much better. But that's another thing. It has a lot of, toyish sort of issues that kind of bug me. Action Fleet was not too big a fan of, with hovercraft, they liked to have these plastic bits that just kind of stick out real bad. And like this does just bug the hell out of me because you can't take it off. It's just a big wheel that's glued to the back of the ship, or the tank, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think probably, objectively, this is the better toy, but with all my weird preferences, I would definitely give the win to this one, if it comes to my personal preference. It also has the correct sort of hatch at the top. It also rotates, which is, that's nice. I don't know if it does that in the movie, but it does it here. Little compartment for a guy. That's actually the wrong figure. This is the droid that comes with... Action Fleet liked to do a lot of posed figures that were locked into whatever specific pose that they needed for the, whatever toy they were doing. This one happens to be in a pose that makes it click into these little pegs on the side of the ship. That looks awesome. That's such a fun little thing. It just means that your guy is now posed like this forever, and he kind of looks odd if you wanted to stick him up in the commander's seat. It all really depends on your preference. I just, I'm willing to sacrifice a lot for the weirdly specific things that I like about toys, and this thing does bug me in a lot of ways. The guns are a lot more low profile on the sides, but they're made of rubberized plastic again, so they warp, which is a little annoying. These are made of nice hard plastic, so they don't bend. You see the joint there is a little... I can see these breaking off if a kid's too rough with it, but like I said before, these aren't gonna, unless you drop it from, 5 feet. This one doesn't have a hatch at the front. The only way to store a figure in here is in the little seat up there. That's enough about the comparison. I'm going to give you a quick sort of look at the box. Not too much to go over, just some features. Your Series 2 logo right there. And then a little description of your features on the back there. Collectible card. I am digging the packaging for Microgalaxy. Still working on these two, but these reviews are coming. It's all about patience, right? Give you a look at the insert. There's your logo. I love the reflective sort of effect that you get on the front. Which way does it go? This way. That's your little insert you can set the ship on top of if you want to display it. I won't be, but it's up to you if you want to. And that's basically it with the AAT. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Catch me in the next video.